I was a simple, unremarkable guy, but I knew from childhood that I would live in prosperity while my peers burned their youth in clubs and bars. I studied and developed. And in the end, my efforts paid off. I had good capital, and I had a wonderful wife. But still, I made a mistake in some places, namely in choosing a soulmate. There were no indications, no unfamiliar car parked in the driveway, no scattered clothing from the living room to the bedroom, and certainly no echoing sounds of explicit requests. Not feeling well after my morning meeting, I decided to head home, a privilege of being the boss. The shock hit me like a wave when I entered the bedroom. My wife of 2 years was on all fours on the bed, facing me, engaged in intimate activity with another man. The absence of noise was explained by her ball gag, blindfold, and a leash around her neck. He paused when he noticed me, and after a 10-second stare down, he casually remarked with a smirk, "Would you mind closing the door and giving us some privacy?" Resuming his actions, he continued while my wife removed her blindfold. Initially surprised, her expression quickly shifted to annoyance, conveying a message of, "How dare you interrupt when I'm occupied?" Fighting back tears, I mustered the strength to charge at the intruder. I wish I could say I seized him by the hair, delivered powerful punches to his forehead, and threw him out into the street. However, life isn't a fairy tale, and the good guys don't always triumph where I come from. When I closed in for a potential strike, he took the initiative and attacked first. A swift left jab swiftly struck my face, shattering my nose instantly. Blood began to flow. My eyes welled up, impairing my vision. 2 rapid gut shots doubled me over, causing me to clutch my stomach and leaving my face vulnerable. His knee rose, connecting with my face, sending intense pain throughout my body. I found myself on the ground, enduring 2 chest stomps before I raised my arm to defend myself. A sharp snap indicated my forearm bone breaking. "Mike, he's had enough. Stop. Just go." That was the last thing I heard before losing consciousness. I awoke feeling disoriented, immediately realizing I was in the hospital and sensing the extent of my injuries. Every part of my body ached. Summoning what strength I had, I turned my gaze to find my wife, Jenny, seated nearby. "Are you okay?" she inquired. I turned my head away and stared out the window, deeming her question absurd and unworthy of a response. "I'm sorry, you weren't supposed to find out like that," she admitted. "Like that? So you did want me to find out, just not in that manner," I retorted. She averted her eyes from me and quietly confirmed, "Yes." Determined to understand, I pressed her for an explanation. "You need to clarify this for me. Who is this guy? How long has this been happening? Why?" My mind raced with questions. You won't like the answers, but it's time for the truth. Michael was my college boyfriend before we got together. We never truly ended things. He grew impatient waiting for me. So we decided that since our initial plan wasn't working, it was time to cut our losses and move on. "What the hell are you talking about? What plan? You were brilliant in high school and college, voted most likely to succeed. You had so much potential. When you started your computer software company, I believe nothing could hold you back. However, you haven't achieved anything significant. The plan was to wait for you to make substantial money, real money, and then I planned to divorce you. I would take my share, and Mike and I would start anew. He got tired of our weekly rendezvous and your frequent business trips. When it became apparent you weren't going to succeed as we'd hoped, we became less cautious. I couldn't comprehend what I was hearing. I felt the urge to hide away and disappear. Could she really be serious? Did she marry me solely for the money she thought I would make? I couldn't bear to look at her. "Nurse, remove her from here. Jenny, just get out of my sight. I never want to see you again. Take your divorce, you deceitful person." "Nurse." I began pressing the morphine button rapidly, desperate to numb the pain, not the physical pain, but the agony of her shattering my heart. "I'm sorry, Nikki. I didn't want you to get hurt. That's the truth. I just wanted to put an end to all of this and move on with my life. She grabbed her jacket and headed for the door. Believe me, I said, it's not over. I'm sorry, Nikki, but it is. In high school and college, I wasn't particularly popular. I had only one or two close friends and often found myself eating lunch alone. Therefore, when Jenny, the 557 to 135 lb head cheerleader, approached me at the beginning of my junior year in college and asked if she could join me for lunch, I was both surprised and hesitant. Given my past experiences of being the target of practical jokes and physical abuse like wedgies and swirlies in high school, I suspected another setup. When Jenny asked for a second time if she could sit with me, I clarified, went with me. Of course with you. I have something to discuss, more like a favor to ask. You went to Central High, right? She inquired. Yes, I stammered. I'm struggling with some of my classes and could really use a tutor. I know you were smart in high school. Although we may not have spoken, I was aware of everyone who went there. Most girls won't help me because they resent me for being pretty and the head cheerleader, and guys often view it as an opportunity to advance romantically, which isn't what I'm looking for. I don't want to fail, so I thought I'd ask you. So, I'm a safe choice? I questioned. I'm not trying to insult you, but yeah, you're a safe choice. Plus, when studying gets tough, we can reminisce about the old school and do the where are they now routine. What do you say? I appreciate your honesty. I won't commit to anything long term. Let's have one study session and see where it goes. Deal. Deal. Here's my address and phone number. Call me later and we can set up a time. I really appreciate this, she said. That's how a small nerdy person like me ended up spending time with the attractive head cheerleader. Initially, our sessions were focused on studying, but as we continued meeting, the emphasis shifted away from academics. We began discussing our personal lives, aspirations, and where we envisioned ourselves in the coming years. Our conversations delved into family, passions, and even my ambition to start a company. The more we talked and the more she opened up, the deeper I fell for her. Her physical appeal was an added bonus. Her apartment was always warm, and she wore the briefest shorts and smallest tops. I hesitated to follow the usual path and ask her out, fearing embarrassment. Yet my desire to do so was palpable. Spending so much time with her daily without the prospect of more became increasingly challenging. Then one day she surprised me. Get dressed. We're going out tonight, dinner, and a party, she declared when I answered the phone. What do you mean? I inquired. I'm taking you on a date. I know you're too considerate to ask, especially after hearing about my other male tutors. But I believe we've connected on a personal level. Let's go on a proper date and see where it leads. I'm not sure about this. I mean, look at me. Why would someone who looks like you be interested in someone like me? I've observed your past relationships and I don't fit the mold. You typically go for the athletic, muscular, spiky-haired guys. Firstly, let's take a closer look at you. You're intelligent, funny, with a great personality, and most importantly, a genuine person with real fears, hopes, and dreams. Secondly, you're not like the others I've dated, and there have been many. Want to know why? Because those relationships never work out. They cheat, have huge egos, and treat me poorly. It's time for me to broaden my horizons and look beyond my usual type to find a meaningful connection. She had a point, so we headed to dinner. We attracted quite a few stares when we entered the restaurant hand in hand. People marveled at her stunning looks and wondered how I managed to score a date with her. Dinner went relatively well. She flirted and touched a bit, and I was nervously trying not to embarrass myself. While waiting for the check, she reassured me. There's no need to be so nervous. If we don't click, we can still be friends. You won't be any worse off than you were yesterday, having lost nothing. But if you relax and we do hit it off, just imagine what you could gain. Once again, she had me in a bind. We arrived at the party, and she introduced me to some of her friends. Strangely, there were no strange glances, no lingering stares, and no hostility from her friends. I connected well with two girls and a guy who, like me, were avid movie enthusiasts. Then came the moment I had been dreading all night. A heavily built linebacker was heading straight for Jenny. My heart leaped into my throat as I struggled to accept the impending loss. "Hey, sweetheart, care to dance?" He slurred, clearly affected by too much beer. "No, thanks. I'm here with a date," she replied, gesturing in my direction. "This guy, you can't be serious." "Of course I'm serious," Jenny asserted. "This guy's a loser. Sooner or later, you'll realize you should be with me. So let's save some time." "Loser? He's here with the head cheerleader. You'll get more drunk, watch some gay porn, and pass out." Clearly, we have very different definitions of what a loser is. I couldn't help but let out a giggle. "What on earth are you laughing at just because you brought her here? You think you're leaving with her. She's leaving with me. You're nothing. I'm a star football player. You've got no skills in the bedroom. She knows I'll do my best to impress." This was the moment. Sink or swim. If I was going down, it would be in flames. Summoning my best Sean Connery impersonation, I cut him off with these words. "Your best. Losers always complain about their best. Winners go home and end up with the prom queen." The whole crowd burst into laughter. He started to get tense, but his friend intervened, calming him down, and he walked away with his pride wounded. It was shaping up to be a good night. When I escorted Jenny home, I walked her to the door. She gave me a kiss that left me weak at the knees. "I may not be the prom queen, but I'd still love it if you came in and spent the night." We made love 3 times that night. I wasn't a virgin, but I wasn't particularly experienced either. She changed that. We started slowly so she could guide me. Touch here, lick there, and avoid this spot. We made love in the missionary position, gazing into each other's eyes. It was beautiful. By the end of the night, it escalated to a more passionate level. I was behind her, and the sounds of skin slapping coupled with exclamations like, "Fuck me," and "Oh yes," echoed through the apartment. It was primal. At one point, her neighbors banged on the walls because we were so loud. That night marked the beginning of our relationship, and we spent all our time together. She moved in with me 2 months later. 2 years down the line, we experienced an incredible 3-week period. We graduated, got married, embarked on a honeymoon, and upon returning home, I had launched my own business. Life was fantastic. Anthony had a unique way of expressing himself. I anticipated his presence when I regained consciousness for the second time. However, he wouldn't be there at the same time as Jenny. Their mutual dislike was an understatement. He always suspected she had ulterior motives, while she believed I idolized him too much and lived in his shadow. Despite their differences, he genuinely cared for me. When I discussed my plan to start a business, he asked for details, and upon learning I needed a $50,000 loan, promptly arranged the funds without expecting repayment. Instead, he proposed a 20% silent partnership in my venture. While he may not have believed in the business, he believed in me. How bad is it? I didn't inquire the last time I was awake for long. "My entire body is aching," I confided. "It's pretty rough. Broken nose, 2 black eyes, some cuts and bruises. The worst is the broken forearm. The doctor says it'll take about 6 weeks to heal." "Nikki, why didn't you call me? You know I could have helped." "Anthony, I only found out that day. I had no idea, no clue. I must have been blind. There must have been signs." I began to trail off. I anticipated him saying, "I told you so." He had cautioned me about her, but I chose not to heed his advice. After I successfully sold the program, he had a heart-to-heart with me. About a year into running the software company, I developed a noteworthy piece of software, a feature now commonly found in many cell phones. A major cell phone company bought the concept from me. I handed over all the necessary paperwork, receiving an upfront payment of $2.5 million, plus 0.5% for every device sold with my program. My brother, who negotiated the deal, earned $500,000 for his 20%. He urged me to keep the money hidden from Jenny, predicting she would quickly spend it all. But she's my wife. How can I hide money from her? It's simple. I know a bit about banking laws. I can stash it away in an offshore account for you. I'll keep $100,000 in cash in a safety deposit box for emergencies and hide the rest. Not forever, just a few years to see if she proves to be a responsible spouse. Mom and Dad made me promise to look out for you as your older brother. That's all I'm doing. He knew exactly where to strike a chord. I had relied on our parents for advice in such matters until they died in a car accident, making him my go-to. Reluctantly, I agreed to his plan, with the understanding that we wouldn't tell Jenny about the money for 2 years. It was the only time I deceived my wife. Little did I know that less than a year later, I would discover her infidelity. Get dressed. I'm getting you out of this hospital. The ladies will love the look. Nothing like a sympathy fling, Anthony said, tossing me some fresh clothes. No, I got mugged and decided not to surrender my wallet. They got rough. That's the story. No one gets the truth. Besides, the doctor said I couldn't be released any earlier than tomorrow. I explained, feeling a bit disoriented. Just think of it as early parole. As Anthony wheeled me to the hospital's entrance, he helped me to my feet and outlined the plan. Here's the plan. We'll send you away for a while, to let your arm heal. I don't want that woman seeing you around town like this. And then, he abruptly stopped speaking. I glanced upward to discover the direction of his gaze. He was fixed on an imposing figure, a man of considerable stature, standing at an impressive 6 feet 2 inches, weighing around 240 pounds of pure muscle. Dressed in a black suit paired with a black silk t-shirt, he sported a small gold cross hanging from a chain around his neck. With a bald head and a goatee, he stood beside an open back door of a Lincoln Town car, remaining motionless and silent. Anthony's tone turned grave as he declared, "Change of plans. We're heading to see Carmen. When Carmen gives an order, you don't refuse." There are a few key points to understand about my brother. He is likely more intelligent than I am. Physically, he is shorter, standing at around 5'6", and carries some extra weight with a potbelly. He faced frequent bullying in high school, but unlike me, he didn't turn it into motivation for self-improvement. Instead, he used those experiences to take a darker path. While he rarely spoke about it, he occasionally shared some aspects of his life with me, so that I had an understanding of his situation. My brother Anthony utilized his skills in math, finance, and computers for activities outside the bounds of the law. Additionally, he worked for someone named Carmen. I only encountered Carmen once when my brother took me out for a celebratory dinner after closing a deal for a program. We dined at a quaint Italian restaurant off the usual path, where the owner, Carmen, greeted my brother warmly. After introductions, Carmen acknowledged how my brother turned his $25,000 investment into $250,000 legitimately, expressing gratitude and offering us a complimentary meal. Carmen didn't elaborate further and walked away. I recognized Carmen from occasional news coverage with reporters associating him with terms like RICO, racketeering, and most frequently, mafia. It was during this dinner that Anthony revealed his connection to Carmen, though he remained tight-lipped about the nature of his work. Anthony had contacted Carmen to recover money owed to him, seizing the opportunity to share my computer program plan. "Do you believe his computer venture will succeed?" Carmen inquired. "Honestly, Carmen, I don't know, but I trust my brother," Anthony assured him. That was sufficient for Carmen, who handed over Anthony's $25,000 and added $25,000 of his own the next day. We arrived at Carmen's restaurant in approximately half an hour. Lo, the montagne, the person who picked us up at the hospital. We did us through the restaurant, past the tables, and into an affix at the back through the hospital. Guided us through the restaurant, past the tables, and into an office at the back through the kitchen. Carmen was seated behind a large oak desk. Just as I was about to take a seat, a door opened and my attention turned as a strikingly beautiful woman entered through the side door. She was stunning, appearing a bit young, perhaps around 21. Sporting an hourglass figure with an ample 36C chest, her hostess uniform clung to every curve. I sensed an exotic allure, which I assumed to be Latina rather than Italian. "Hey there," she said. "Don't sit on the chair. Take the couch. It'll be better for your arm." "Can I get you folks something to drink or eat?" she asked, adjusting the pillows next to me to elevate my arm. Despite my expectation of a pitying gaze, none came. "These guys are solid, Becky. Could you give us some privacy?" Carmen said, gesturing towards the door. She swayed as she walked away, and my gaze lingered on her, as I wondered how many times Carmen had taken advantage of that attractive figure on the leather couch I was now sitting on. Once she left, Carmen began, "That's Becky or Rebecca. She's a good kid who had a tough upbringing. A drunken mom, an abusive dad. I've taken her under my wing. She works here to avoid going home. She asked me not to intervene or make her family disappear. However, I'm determined to ensure she graduates college and builds a better future for herself, pulling her out of that difficult situation." I immediately gained respect for Carmen. He wasn't taking advantage of her, even though he easily could have. Instead, he used his influence to guide her onto a positive path. "So I heard you're facing some issues with women," Carmen remarked, and I shot my brother a disapproving look. "Don't blame him. He didn't inform me. Let me clarify something about your brother. Without delving into specifics, he works for me, and we generate a significant income together. He's an extremely loyal employee, and I value that. He doesn't laugh at my jokes when they're not funny. He doesn't agree with me on baseball predictions, and he voices his opinions, whether they align with mine or not, always respectfully. That's why he's my friend, a genuine one. I appreciate his friendship more than his loyalty as an employee. So when I see my friend going through a tough time like he did the other day when he found out about your situation, I make it my business to find out what's bothering him and offer help in any way I can. Now tell me about Jenny." I recounted the entire story. How we met, the marriage, discovering her infidelity, and her hospital visit. Carmen sat there expressionless, absorbing every detail. It felt liberating to finally share it all. When I finished, he asked, "So, what are you going to do?" "I'm going with Anthony's plan. Lay low for a few months, pop my head up just long enough to sell my business, and then vanish. With the money I've saved up, and the proceeds from the company sale, I could live comfortably somewhere, in the Caribbean." Leaning in, he looked me in the eyes and asked, "But what do you really want to do?" I sighed. "Honestly, I want to make them pay. I want them to feel the way they made me feel," I said, looking down. "Good. Enough of this running away nonsense. Let's work on a plan." I wouldn't even know where to start. She called him Mike. That's all I remember. I couldn't even pick him out of a lineup if I had to. Carmen reached into his desk drawer, pulled out a folder, and tossed it over to me. Carmen informed us about a guy named Mike Downs. He's 6 feet tall, weighs 195 pounds, has brown hair, and works as a mechanic. Interestingly, he attended the same college as both of you, and used to date Jenny before you two got together. It seems like they hatched a plan for her to marry you, and take advantage of your wealth. Mike originally hails from a small town in Arizona, where his mother still resides, and he maintains regular contact with her. Carmen has all the details, including vital information. Armed with pictures, times, and dates, we had everything necessary to strike Mike where it hurts. I already knew Jenny's weak spot. I just needed an opportunity to exploit it. The three of us devised a plan, but we had to wait a few months until my arm healed to put it into action. Now that we've covered that, I need to address a more pressing issue. Becky's performance in her classes is slipping, and I have to find her some help, Carmen stated. I can assist her without any ulterior motives. If you have space here, I could come over and tutor her. I have a good academic record, and since my arm needs time to heal, I'll need something to occupy my time. My head programmer is handling the office work in my absence, as I can't meet with clients like this. Waiting was bound to be agonizing. I was eager for revenge, but I understood the importance of having both arms ready for the task. At least now I had something to keep me occupied during the waiting period. 3.5 months had passed since I discovered Jenny's betrayal. The house we shared belonged to her parents, so my brother took whatever little I had there while I was hospitalized. I had been away from the house for just 2 days when she moved in with Mike. Their relationship seemed to be thriving, and Jenny had initiated divorce proceedings without knowing about the hidden money. She simply wanted to be free from me. However, their world took a dramatic turn one Friday night as they were leaving for a date. While walking to their car in the driveway, Lou, a massive figure, appeared in front of Mike. "Someone wants to talk to you. My car is over there. Let's go." "Your partner needs to stay here," Lou declared. Mike objected, saying, "Now wait just a second. You can walk with me to the car and sit in the back seat, or I can drag you to the car and you can ride in the trunk. It's your choice, but you're coming with me." Turning to Jenny, Mike advised, "You should stay here. I don't know who this guy is or what he wants. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. But if you don't hear from me in 2 hours, call the cops." Lou guided Mike to the same office where I had encountered Carmen before. Lou instructed Mike to take a seat, and Carmen continued with his tasks for about 5 minutes, leaving Mike in suspense. Finally, Carmen broke the silence and asked, "Do you recognize who I am?" Mike, breathing heavily, feared he might hyperventilate. "Yes, sir. I know who you are." "Good. That will save us a lot of time. Take this cell phone. Sometime in the next few days it will ring. Only one person has this number. When it rings, answer it and stay on the line until the other person hangs up. Afterward, come here and meet me at noon a week from Sunday. Do you comprehend these instructions?" Mike managed to respond with a barely audible, "Yes." "Good. Any deviation, disclosing our discussion, the cell phone, or anything else to anyone, including your associate, will have consequences. Attempting to flee or leave town will result in severe consequences for both you and her. Is that clear?" Once again, Mike uttered a simple, "Yes." "Good. Now get out of my sight." With that, Mike's meeting with Carmen concluded. He remained clueless about why he was summoned, what warranted the meeting with Carmen, who would be calling him on the phone, or the nature of their discussion. Nevertheless, Mike knew he would strictly adhere to the given instructions. When Carmen issues commands, saying no is not an option. The anxiety of awaiting the phone call was tormenting Mike. He felt on edge, irritable, and particularly short-tempered, especially with Jenny. Opting for a drink to alleviate the tension, he left her at home and parked outside the bar. Just as he was about to step out of the car, the awaited moment arrived. The phone rang. Answering the call, he greeted with a hesitant, "Hello." On the other end, I instructed him, "Set it up for a video chat." As his face appeared on the screen, he questioned, "Do I know you?" "It's no surprise you don't remember. However, I remember it vividly. I am Jenny's soon-to-be ex-husband," I revealed. "Shit," he exclaimed, realizing that this call was not going to bode well for him. Thoughts raced through his mind. How did Nikki know Carmen? What awaited him in their plans? Numerous questions flooded Mike's thoughts and panic began to take hold. "I want to show you something," I continued. "I have my earpiece in so no one else can hear you except me." Mike carefully observed every detail as I strolled. The fleeting glances he gave suggested that I was in a location he recognized but couldn't quite identify. "Darling, are you finished in the bathroom? I desire you so intensely that I'm practically dripping on the couch." The voice came from off-screen, but Mike immediately recognized it. It was the first voice he had ever known, his mother's voice. That's when he understood why everything felt so familiar. He realized that I was at his mother's house in Arizona. "I'm sorry," a friend called me. "Say hi to my buddy Barry," I said, coming up with a random name for Mike. "You son of a bitch," was all Mike could say when I switched the viewing mode on my phone so he could see his mother, but she couldn't see him. She was sitting on the couch and twiddling her finger, waiting for me. She was wearing knee socks and high heels, and nothing else. "Barry is a pervert, just like us. He likes to watch, don't you, Barry? Why don't you get down on all fours to show Barry what a great ass you have? Barry, your friend, and I have been engaged in this all day, and he was a surprise in store for me. Do you appreciate my physique, Barry?" his mother inquired, turning around and leaning over the back of the sofa. "Hey, why not let Barry choose what he'd like to witness? Barry, would you prefer to observe us in action, or would you rather watch her take in my instrument?" I suggested. "Please don't go through with this," Mike pleaded. He's finding it challenging to decide. He desires to witness both, so he's having trouble making up his mind. What are your thoughts? "I think my kitty could use one more rough time, but I really like playing your musical instrument, sir," she sighed. "Kitty," Mike finally said. "Barry is quite enterprising. He has made his decision. Open. He wants to see me work out with you." "What the hell is going on?" Mike exclaimed. "I only tried it once, and it was very painful." "Just take your time," she said. When Mike entered our lunch meeting, he was visibly angry with me. If we hadn't been at Carmen's place, he might have gone so far as to injure himself trying to confront me physically. He was aware of the inappropriate setting for such behavior and had pressing questions on his mind. The moment he took his seat, he demanded, "I want to know how you managed to get her." I replied, "A fair question." I orchestrated the situation. Interestingly, her best friend betrayed her for a mere $10,000. This friend divulged everything about your mother, where to meet her, her interests, and the psychological triggers to pique her curiosity. Every dollar spent was worthwhile. Turns out your mom was quite receptive to a man in town for business only temporarily. What's next? Now, we're square for you betraying my trust with my wife, unwilling to overlook the financial aspect. Greed tends to cloud judgment. I'm also not holding a grudge over the physical altercation. I initiated the confrontation, and I doubt you would have interrupted your affair to come after me. So in a way I brought that upon myself. Okay, he conceded, rising to leave. We may be even on that front, but there are other matters we need to address. Sit back down. I have a surprise for your mother that I need to share with you. Reluctantly, he returned to his seat, staring at me with an unmistakable glare of resentment. It appears that your mother's acquaintance was correct. Your mom did confide in a stranger, thinking that the person was leaving town for good. On the night of the phone call, which by the way marked the 4th occasion I was intimate with your mom, we engaged in a conversation after our encounter. During our talk, we delved into fantasies, and she initially hesitated. However, I suggested that a stranger, free from any judgment or chance encounters at the local supermarket, would be ideal for bringing her fantasies to life. She was concerned about potential judgment from me, but I assured her otherwise, and she eventually opened up to me. Her 2 main fantasies were to be intimate with a man of color and to have multiple partners simultaneously. I informed her that I had some colleagues with me on the trip who could assist with fulfilling those desires. When the doorbell rang, 4 men, all of whom were black, arrived, and they engaged with her for approximately 5 hours that night. He was disheartened but not defeated. "Nonsense," he exclaimed. "It must be false." I retrieved the remote from the desk and pressed play. The room was filled with explicit sounds, including phrases like, "Oh God, I love your big black cock," and "Make me your little white whore." After enduring about 30 seconds, I swiftly pressed stop. Despite being physically worn out, he remained resilient. "You're going to do something for me," I asserted. "Fuck you. Why would I do anything for you after this?" he retorted. "Because if you refuse, Copies of this DVD will be sent to everyone in your mom's town in Arizona. Her family, friends, co-workers, and the people at the charity where she volunteers will all receive it. I could have targeted you, but that wouldn't have had any impact. I had to go after someone you genuinely care about. You brought this upon yourself, leaving me no choice. If you comply with my request, both the original and the copy in my possession will be destroyed." And there it was, the expression I had anticipated. He appeared defeated. "How can I trust that you won't keep any copies or actually destroy the originals as you claim?" "I can't trust you," he questioned. "You can trust that they will be destroyed because I give you my word," Carmen assured. Apparently satisfied, Mike ceased his attempts to argue. I spelled out my demands, detailing exactly what I wanted him to do. I informed him that once the task was completed, he could visit me at my apartment. "Is that all?" "Can I go?" Mike inquired. "One more thing after completing this task. You leave town and don't return. Don't inform anyone about your departure or the reason, especially Jenny. I believe it's in everyone's best interest this way," Carmen declared. Mike agreed, realizing that when Carmen makes a request, saying no is not an option. About 7 weeks later, my doorbell rang, and upon opening it, I found Mike standing there. "It's done," he declared. I handed the disc over to Carmen. "I have an 11 a.m. flight out of here tomorrow morning. That should give me enough time to pack my belongings after Jenny leaves for work and still catch the flight." "All right, Mike. You've held up your end of the bargain, and I'll do the same. I'll visit Carmen today and instruct him to dispose of both the original and the copies of your mom's DVD. He's had them since the day we met at his office. You know how they say that women tend to date men resembling their fathers. I suppose it makes sense that men end up dating women similar to their mothers." With that, Mike turned and walked away, and I never crossed paths with him again. True to my word, I visited Carmen and informed him that he could eliminate all traces of information about Mike's mom. Carmen assured me that he would keep the disc Mike handed him until the right time, adding that I didn't need to view its contents. He also inquired if there was anything else I needed. I've secured a buyer for my company, a reputable individual. He's agreed to retain all my current employees for at least a year with the evaluations to follow. This commitment is even included in the contract. Consequently, you can expect a check for your 10%. Additionally, the sales of those cell phones are picking up, so we should start receiving payments for those too. Good. Now, there's something I need to discuss with you. Becky approached me yesterday. How did her grades turn out? I inquired. They went well. Thanks to your assistance, she'll be graduating on time this June, but that's not the point of discussion. She told me she would never pry into my business, but she needed to understand what exactly you do for me. When I questioned her motives, she explained that she could never be with someone in the lifestyle. However, after spending time with you, she's grown fond and is contemplating a potential future. I clarified that you don't work for me, but I'm helping you through some personal matters. Wow, she's attractive, smart, and we enjoy each other's company. I just never considered dating her after the initial conversation about her tutors. Maybe you should think about it. She deserves happiness, and you're a good guy. Plus, if you mistreat her, you know what I would do to you," he said with a wink. "Believe me, I know," I replied, uncertain if the wink hinted at a joke or a serious warning. "Good," Carmen said. "I'll hold on to the disc, and you let me know when and how you want me to put it into play. Call me on the phone to discuss the details." "Okay," I said, leaving his office. It struck me as odd that he disliked phones but insisted I call him. Nevertheless, I would comply when the time came. When Carmen asks, you don't say no. As I reached the front door of the restaurant, I spotted Becky at the hostess station. Seizing the opportunity, I approached her. "Hey, I heard your classes went well." "Yeah, I'm so relieved to have passed those classes. It's all thanks to you. I don't know how I can ever repay you. How about letting me take you to dinner? Somewhere other than here. Maybe we can grab a few drinks afterward." "That sounds a lot like a date to me," she said. "Funny. I was thinking the exact same thing." "I would love to, Nick. I spent 10 months waiting for the perfect set of circumstances for Phase 2. Armed with all the necessary information, I dialed the number Carmen had provided. "Hello," he answered when he picked up. "It's me. Do you have the info?" Carmen asked. "Friday night, 8 p.m. Hunter's Steakhouse on Main Street. It will be done. That person will never know what hit them. You have my word." With that, Carmen hung up, leaving me nervously awaiting news throughout the weekend. I heard nothing until Monday morning when I walked out of my house to retrieve the paper. As I bent down, a massive shadow enveloped me. Looking up, I saw Leo the mountain. "It's done," he said stoically before turning around and walking away. It was over. I opened my eyes to the sunlight streaming through a gap in the curtains directly hitting my face. During the night, she had tossed the covers aside. She looked stunning. Clad only in panties, I began kissing her neck and pressing my morning arousal against her back. She let out a slight moan as she woke, turning her head to meet my kisses with passion. As my hand descended to explore further, seeking her warmth, I discovered her hand attempting to remove her panties single-handedly. Offering assistance, we removed them together, and she took control, positioning herself on top of me. She presented a breast to my mouth, while guiding my eager member to her eagerly awaiting entrance. With a swift motion, she impaled herself on me, and I nibbled on her nipple. Sitting up, she reached behind to fondle my testicles, moving her body sensually on my rigid member. Her breath quickened, and moments before exclaiming, "Oh, I'm coming," I felt her juices cascading down my thighs as I released deep inside her. "We've only been married for 3 days, but I could wake up like that every day for the rest of my life," she remarked. "Get used to it, Becky. I plan on living a nice long life, and that means many mornings like this," I replied. It had been 2 years since I discovered Jenny's infidelity, and only 3 days since I married Becky. We waited until she finished school and settled into her career before taking the plunge. As I admired her putting her panties back on, I couldn't help but feel fortunate. Out of nowhere, a knock echoed at the door. Who disturbs a recently married couple at 9 in the morning on the 3rd day of their honeymoon in Hawaii? "I'll handle it," she said, wrapping herself in a robe. Upon opening the door, she discovered a bellboy with a room service breakfast cart. "Oh my goodness, this is so thoughtful of you, Nikki," she exclaimed. "I wish I could take credit, but it wasn't me," I confessed. The bellhop explained, "I was instructed to deliver this breakfast to you along with this. It will clarify everything." After giving him a $20 tip, I closed the door behind him and wheeled the cart to the small dining table. We began eating as I opened the package, which contained a DVD, 5 numbered smaller envelopes, and a larger one labeled "Read Me First." I opened it and read aloud to my new bride. "Congratulations to the newlyweds. I must apologize for not being able to attend the wedding. I knew you both desired an intimate ceremony, and I believe my presence would have brought unwanted attention and distraction to your special day. I always wished the best for you, Becky, and thought staying home would ensure your wedding day was as perfect as possible. Visit the restaurant when you return. I have a nice gift for both of you. Becky, I need you to give Nikki some privacy for approximately half an hour. There are important contents in those envelopes and on the DVD that I want him to go through. Nick, insert the DVD and open the envelope labeled number 1 when you're alone. With affection, Carmen." She planted a kiss on my forehead, mentioned she was heading for a shower, and informed me that once I was finished, we would relax by the pool and enjoy a couple of Mai Tais. After she left, I followed the instructions, inserted the DVD, and opened envelope number 1. The instructions are straightforward. Play the DVD, and when you encounter a screen prompting you to read envelope number blank, pause the video, read the corresponding envelope, and then resume by pressing play. If you're ready, go ahead and hit play. I was completely speechless when I pressed play. Not only did I have no clue about the content of the DVD, but I also found the whole situation quite unexpected for Carmen. I prepared myself for whatever might unfold on the screen. The DVD commenced with a white screen and black lettering that read, "Frank and Anna's 30th wedding anniversary." A black and white security camera feed from Hunter's Steakhouse appeared. Frank and Anna were Jenny's parents, and I had heard that she was organizing a grand celebration for them. She had invited all her family and friends. Having waited patiently, I sensed that this was the ideal moment for the second phase of my revenge. A cheerful scene filled the screen, capturing people toasting, laughing, and enjoying themselves. Although there was no audio, the picture quality was impeccable. It seemed like Jenny was delivering a speech. Then a message appeared on the screen. "Read envelope 2." I pressed pause and began to read. Jenny had chosen this moment to express gratitude to everyone for attending. She had prepared a video honoring her parents and a photo slideshow commemorating their 30 years together. Unfortunately for her, she decided to betray you. So we had different plans for what her guests would see. I resumed playing, and the screen displayed a large TV being wheeled to the front of the room. A series of screenshots set up the video, stating, "Jenny loves her parents. Jenny wants to celebrate their love for each other." You could see the puzzled expression on Jenny's face as she began to look around. She knew that the video being played did not belong to her and looked around the crowd, hoping to identify any faces that could show who had improved her video. The footage has been preserved. But what does Jenny understand about love when she leads her husband for such activities? The TV at the steakhouse started showing scenes where Johnny is having fun with 5 black people. You get the sense. It was only then that I realized the nature of what I had witnessed when the message, "Read envelope 2 continued," appeared on the DVD screen. Clearly, Michael performed exceptionally well. With the help of a few drinks and some medication, Jenny was in high spirits for the date, proving unstoppable. Michael escorted her to a nearby hotel where they shared an intimate moment. Later, he arranged for others to join and fulfill the desires. According to him, the entire experience lasted over 3 hours, but we've condensed the video to around 15 minutes, focusing mainly on instances when she was involved with multiple partners. I pressed play again. The expression on her family's faces justified the considerable expense. Gasps and hands covering mouths filled the room as Jenny turned away, sobbing. Some guests even dropped their toasting glasses. Within 10 seconds, the place was swarmed by the FBI. I was bewildered and unaware of the unfolding situation. The screen displayed the message, "Read envelope 3." Surprisingly, it turned out that my phone was bugged by the FBI. It seemed that following our phone conversation, they'd mistakenly believed I was planning something sinister at the steakhouse. I don't often cause glassware to break, especially those filled with alcohol. However, it seemed that the sound of shattering crystal resembled a gunshot to the FBI's listening devices planted in the establishment. It suddenly dawned on me why he insisted on a phone call. He was undoubtedly more intelligent than he appeared, a quality necessary for reaching his position. On the screen, the federal agents were apprehending people just as Jenny's Uncle Ernie clutched his chest and collapsed. I always liked her Uncle Ernie. The message "Read envelope 4" interrupted my thoughts about him. Uncle Ernie survived. It was just a panic attack, not a heart attack. They kept him overnight for observation. The video continued for a few minutes featuring discussions between the federal agents and the guests, followed by everyone including both the agents and attendees heading towards the exit. Jenny, visibly stunned, sat on a chair in front of the TV. Her father lingered behind, appearing as though he wanted to comfort her with a hug and reassurance. However, he merely expressed his disappointment with a shake of his head before leaving. A waitress appeared on the screen with her back to the camera, approaching Jenny to share a secret. Jenny's reaction was immediate. She buried her face in her hands, sobbing and trembling. As the waitress turned around, it was revealed to be Becky. "What on earth? Why was Becky there?" I exclaimed. The screen displayed the message, "Read envelope 5." I eagerly tore it open, curious about what she said. "Turn around." I spun around, and there stood Becky, wrapped in a towel around her body and another around her hair, sporting a sly smile on her lips. "What did you tell her?" I asked, my impatience evident. "I told her Nikki said now it's over," she replied. I rose from my seat, approached her, and embraced her warmly, sealing the moment with a passionate kiss. Cradling her in my arms for a good 5 minutes, I finally expressed my feelings. "I love you deeply," she responded. "You better, because you're stuck with me. I don't let anyone mess with the people I care about, even if she did wrong before you and I crossed paths." I seized the opportunity when I overheard Carmen and Anthony discussing the need for someone on the inside to handle the DVD switch and deliver the message. Becky said, curious, "When did you get involved in all of this?" Carmen shared the whole story when I approached him to find out what you did for him. He mentioned helping you through personal challenges, and since I had feelings for you, I needed to understand what I was getting into. They spilled all the details. Once we're back from the honeymoon, we should visit Carmen's. Aside from the gift he has for us, I want to personally thank him and shake his hand. He not only assisted me in seeking revenge, but also helped me reclaim my life and introduced me to a woman who not only loves me but always supports me, I declared. Becky grinned and added, "And when Carmen asks for something, you don't say no." Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.